for tonight. Okay, hello, welcome to week 3. This week, I'm going to be going over non-destructive editing in Photoshop and your first Photoshop project, which kicks off this week. Before we do that, I have 2 design resources that I want to share with you. These will both come in handy as you are working on your project this week. So go ahead and take note of these as I show them. The first one is free Photoshop resources as a specific search on Behance, which is going to bring up just a ton of extras that you can utilize when working in Photoshop. Later this semester, we're going to get into brushes and loading third-party brushes and utilizing these more and more. But this is just a really great design resource to know about and to make note of. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is Unsplash. Unsplash is a website that has free stock imagery that you can utilize in projects this semester. Specifically, I searched vintage photos just to see kind of what comes up, and like this just kind of gives you a sneak peek of something that you're going to be possibly needing for our Photoshop project. So again, it's unsplash.com, but who knew that they were going to have so many different vintage images? They have a pretty good built-in search engine and a lot of great resources, high resolution resources to utilize in your Photoshop work. So those are my 2 design resources for you this week. Here is our week 3 in Canvas. I published this about an hour ago. Make sure, as usual, that you start on the week 3 overview page, which is going to give you your to-do list for the week, exercises, where you're at with the project, and any Photoshop related homework. This week you have your first Photoshop quiz, which is on non-destructive editing. I'm going to show you the lecture page in a minute and also a video. But what I wanted to point out before I do that is these new pages that I've come up with specifically for this class, which are Photoshop tooltip pages that will feature a specific tool in Photoshop, one that you will be using to create. And so I want you to have like a one-spot shop to get the information that you need about the tool, what it does, where to find it, and then how to use it, along with tips for optimal results. So you'll see these every other week or so. They're just Photoshop tooltips, and every time it will highlight a different tool. This week it's highlighting the spot healing brush, which is a tool that you're going to see in the non-destructive editing lecture, in some of the exercises that you work on this week, and also in the quiz this week. So the Adobe Photoshop lecture on non-destructive editing is here for you to read on your own this week. I want to just make sure before we move forward that we're all on the same page when it comes to non-destructive editing, what it is, how to use it, and kind of why. So non-destructive editing is a technique in Photoshop that allows us to edit images without permanently altering the original pixels. So we're not making permanent changes. We're not losing the integrity of the original image. And it's really important not only for creating digital art and things that we want to create because we like them, but also for when you're creating client work down the road and working to please somebody else and to the tastes and the expectations of a client. You want to always make sure that you have the original photo to go back to. Some of the benefits of non-destructive editing: flexibility, easily make edits at any time or tweak those edits that have been made. It's image quality preservation. You avoid losing pixels, destroying pixels, and you can maintain high image quality. Efficiency, you can experiment without starting over or losing your previous work. In this class, as you work through the creative process for your projects, there will be instructions where you have to create more than one version and where you have to do some experimentation, whether it's with color or type or how you use the filters in Photoshop. And being able to maintain that original artwork or your previous work is really important. And then professional workflow ensures better control and adaptability in design projects. So the whole kind of core of non-destructive editing is preserving those pixels. So the rest of the lecture just goes over some key methods for preserving pixels. This is the information that is on the quiz this week, along with sources if you wanted to get more in depth. I want to go ahead and watch this video together. This is, I think, like a 4 or 5 minute video on 4 really kind of basic skill level, basic key, use in Photoshop all the time, ways to edit non-destructively. So any questions so far? I lost the chat. I'm going to bring it back up somewhere here so that I have it. And then that way we can look at it together. Let me blow this up. This is the Photoshop new features. I want 4 ways to edit non-destructively. Okay, let me blow this up so you guys can all see YouTube, correct? Yeah, okay, great. And I'm going to just give this a play.
Nothing is more frustrating than destructive editing. Let me show you a few techniques to keep your Photoshop workflow. Nothing is more frustrating than destructive editing. Let me show you a few techniques to keep your Photoshop workflows non-destructive. Applying adjustments directly to your layers is just about as destructive as you can get. Instead of burning edits onto your pixels like the sight of Comic Sans on a business card burns into your retinas, we can use adjustment layers, which can be added at the bottom of your layers panel. Here you'll find many of the same adjustments, but you'll notice that when one is selected, it's added as a separate layer with the adjustments available to edit within the Properties panel. The beauty of working with adjustment layers is not only can they be hidden or deleted at any point during your project, but many of the benefits of layers comes along with them. Want the adjustment to only affect the layer below? Hold down Alt or Option, hover in between, and click to clip. Need to remove parts of your adjustment? Use a layer mask. Grab your favorite brush and paint those areas into oblivion. Temporary oblivion, of course, since layer masks are also non-destructive. What now? What's this layer mask you speak of? Think of a layer mask as a non-destructive way to hide and show parts of your layers using black and white. And this is perfect for photo compositions. The Object Selection tool, amongst others, can be used to quickly isolate a subject. Then I suppose you could invert the selection and delete, but I can almost guarantee you're going to have nightmares about those missing pixels. So instead, applying a layer mask will keep everything inside your selection visible while hiding everything outside. And if you ever need to fine-tune your mask, grab a brush and paint away. Black to hide, white to reveal. Layer masks go a lot deeper than this, and I'll be sure to cover more in future videos. Filters are some of my favorite tools in Photoshop, but similar to adjustments, they can be very destructive if not applied correctly. For this photo, I'm going through and editing it using the Camera Raw filter, then jumping into Liquify for a bit of wacky fun. As each of these were applied, what did you notice? Yep, they were destructively applied directly to the image. Ugh. Instead, let's turn our image into a smart object, either by right-clicking on the layer or by converting it under the filter menu. Now, what exactly happened here? I'll be diving deeper into smart objects in a future video, but essentially, the pixels of the original layer, or multiple layers in some cases, were just tucked away and preserved into a linked document which can be accessed by double-clicking on the layer's thumbnail. Like adjustment layers, this brings along quite a few benefits. First, since the original layer is preserved, your smart objects can be resized down, then back up to its original size without introducing any unwanted pixelation. Second, on the topic of filters, take a look at what happens when I go through the process of using Camera Raw and Liquify again. Instead of that destructive nonsense from earlier, each filter is listed separately below the layer, allowing you to hide, delete, or even double-click to tweak later on. It even comes with its own mask, so you can hide portions of the filter if needed. Fancy! Sometimes you just want to get in, make a quick edit, and get on with your life. But for larger projects, you may want to ensure your touch-ups are reversible. Luckily, many of the healing tools can be used on new layers. The Spot Healing Brush, for example, has the ability to sample all layers. So each of your edits will be added to the active layer rather than permanently burned onto the original. When using the Clone Stamp and Healing Brush, you can choose to sample the current layer, current and below, or all layers. This will help Photoshop understand what to look for and what to ignore when you hold down Alt or Option and click to create the sample. Finally, for larger areas, the infamous Content-Aware Fill is a game changer. And if you're again working on a new layer, you can use the Content-Aware Fill tool under the Edit menu. In addition to giving you more control over the selected and sampled areas, you can choose whether or not to sample all layers. No matter which healing method you use, working on a separate layer allows you to hide, delete, or fine-tune your edits so you're always working non-destructively. And those are just a few techniques to keep your Photoshop.
I love that video so much because in just that like 4 minutes, he basically gives you everything that you need to create and work in Photoshop. And he gives you so many quick tips. So don't worry, you don't have to remember everything. You don't have to kind of, I would favorite that video and maybe save it to go back to, but you're going to get a lot of practice this semester working on exercises that use those very techniques and walk you through them step by step. But just great video for reminding us how important it is to preserve the original pixels and not make changes that we can't undo when we're creating and editing photos in Photoshop. So this week's kind of selection of exercises, there's 3 of them, which might seem like a lot, but they're really quick ones. And the whole purpose behind the 3 exercises that I have for you is to repair, to improve, to get rid of flaws in existing images. And so let me just share again. Sorry, I'm going to just jump back and forth a little bit. I think I'm going to share my whole desktop. So if I want to go into Photoshop, I can. So back into Canvas, and let me see where you guys are. You over here. Okay. So back into Canvas, and you'll see there's 3 different exercises: removing spots and imperfections, removing dust and scratches, and then repairing creases and tears. A big part of Photoshop's original purpose, and what a lot of people still use it for, is to not only get rid of things we don't want, like the dancer in that very last photo that he was working on in the video, but just making existing photos better. So I am going to, in fact, open Photoshop. If you type in repair photos to the Discover panel, the 3 tutorials that you are going to work on this week all come up, and they're all kind of having to do with just making the photo better. So in this one, you will be getting rid of this wire and getting rid of the mud and, making these white paint flaked stucco just look better. It's about using our eyes and looking at an image and then making it better. There's a lot of people that would look at this picture and just see beautiful color and think it's a really nice kind of artistic shot. But it's up to us to, as artists and creators and designers, to go beyond that and to not let that fly and to make it better, whether we're cropping stuff out or fixing things. That's kind of our responsibility. And in this week's exercises, that is what the plan is. So in the other ones, they are both working with kind of vintage images, like I was showing you on Unsplash, and kind of giving you a hint that would be important to you this week, is the idea of finding a photo that is older, it's a historical image or a vintage image or a family image that maybe has, because it was a printed photo, some damage to it, and then how we repair this in the world of Photoshop and in the digital imaging world. So the exercises are really quick. You will move through them. I'm hoping like not more than 10 to 15 minutes each this week. One thing that I wanted to show you on the first one, this one, you never do anything with the layers panel. So this tutorial does not require a screen capture of any panels. So just always make sure that whether you're using the written instructions in Canvas or the in-app hands-on tutorial in Photoshop, that you return to Canvas to make sure you're turning in the right files for the exercise and that you're naming your file correctly, because those all affect the score that you get. Both of the other ones do require you to take a screen capture of your layers panel. And I just wanted to kind of review that with you, because a few of you, or sometimes I get screen captures of layers panel in pieces. Just open your layers panel up in order to capture the entire panel in one shot. It's not necessary to like scroll to take several pictures of your layers panel. Just open it up so you can capture everything in one. Let's see here. Let me just check my notes. Oh yeah. So I wanted to, and I know, thank you so much for the surveys and the discussion posts this week, talking about what your interest is in digital imaging, what you hope to learn in the class this semester. It was really encouraging for me and validating that we are going to be on the right track and that everyone is going to be learning what they are here to learn. One of the future discussion boards that I have is one in which we explore, or you guys are given rein to explore, tools and techniques that we kind of don't cover in this class. And the reason I bring that up, because when working with vintage photos and older images, I want you guys to do the exercises. And I know that I think I've said this in the past, there's many ways to accomplish the same thing in Photoshop, especially as Photoshop grows in its technological capabilities. So that said, there are other ways to more quickly achieve the same thing as what some of these exercises are leading you to do. Specifically, there's like a new filter. Let me see if I can find, this neural filter thing. This is an advanced level Photoshop technique that exists and that is out there in order to improve photos and to edit your photos. And we are not going to be covering that in this class because it's so important to first learn the basics. So I just wanted to kind of, touch on that again, the idea that there are many ways to do the same thing in Photoshop, and that the more advanced Photoshop gets, the crazier it is with just doing the work for us. But it's not always effective. Like the in the video where he was said that when you want to select a distraction, to use the remove tool, and how it won't find people if they're not facing the camera. That still makes me laugh every time I talk about it. But that's because we are the ones that can recognize, and we are the ones that are actually have eyes to see when we are working in Photoshop. And Photoshop is, taking a stab and using technology and using coding in order to do that, and may not always do it accurately. So as with any AI, it's up to us to make sure that that we are the ones making the decision and controlling these tools that we have at our fingertips. So any questions so far? Questions about exercises, homework, the lecture material for this week? Okay, I want to spend the last half or the second half of class talking about your first Photoshop project. The project that I have for you is going to be a two-part project. You'll have part one this week and then part one next week. For all of your projects, you'll be working through the creative process in 4 steps or 4 phases: brainstorm and research, sketching and ideation, work in progress, and critique, which sometimes will take the form of an online Canvas peer review. Sometimes it will be in this very Zoom doing live feedback sessions. Sometimes you will be just talking to family, friends, asking yourself to be objective and just capturing that feedback on your own. But that is phase 3 before moving into the the finalization phase. So this week, because it's a 2-part project, and I think pretty much all the projects that I have this semester are 2 parts. So you'll do 1 part 1 week and 1 part the next week. So this week you will be doing brainstorm and research and sketching on ideation on what I'm calling the Greetings from Postcard project, in which I'm going to show you the page in a minute, and I also have some visuals to show you. I just have to decide what to show you first. But the other thing that I was going to say about the project work is this is where you are required, the expectation is to create a PDF presentation of what you are submitting. So for part 1, you'll be submitting your brainstorm and research and your sketching and ideation. So as you work on the project, you need to make sure that you're documenting your work, that you're taking notes, that you're taking screen captures and possibly photographs and things that you will be able to utilize to tell the story of your creative process when you create your PDF submission. So I'm going to show you more of that in a minute, but what I want to do first is show you my desktop and and maybe I don't know if this is going to help us or not. I'll turn the light on. And what I have in ways of actual physical examples to show you. Just bring these down. Greetings from Vintage Postcards. Can you guys all see my desktop? Yeah. Okay. So these are mostly actually vintage photo postcards that I got from an antique store. Greetings from, if you haven't seen a postcard, it is just like a 2-sided, picture heavy form of printed communication. And this idea of a greetings from postcard is you're on a trip. It's sent to someone that doesn't live, near you or hasn't been here or is at home while you're away. And you kind of send them a postcard that captures the essence of that location, and you're saying greetings from. I love these ones with the deckled edges where they're like kind of scalloped or it's deckled. But this is my crazy collection, and this is just to kind of give you guys an idea of where we're headed and some ideas of maybe what you want to do with your greetings from postcard. Here's another cool one. Some of these have multiple images, some of them just have one image. There's always a type solution of how the greetings from is going to be presented on the card and be able to be legible, whether it's going to be, adding some white in order to have the words go across very busy photos where you wouldn't be able to see the lettering otherwise, or it's in its own whole portion of the photo. These ones have it just super tiny, like around the edge. And look at this one, it says it too. Greetings from Paradox Lake, New York.
What are decals?
So deckled edges is this how it's got this texture around the edge. So I know you can get scissors that create this edge. You guys are going to be working completely digitally, so this is just kind of for fun. Or also it's something that, if you wanted to, you could recreate this look in digitally. And I'm going to show you how you're going to create your postcard in a minute. But I think this was probably what's called die cut, where it is machine cut. probably in bulk, when these were printed. But it's different from scalloping because scalloping is more geometric and even, and this has like a very here, I think this is scalloped. See how these are more rounded? It's just a different kind of edge, but it adds to that like vintage kind of authentic look and feel. This was like a whole set of postcards that you could send as postcards. So you absolutely do not have to go to an antique store and look for postcards, but it's kind of a fun thing, and it's kind of a fun throwback to something that you may not see very often today. So I wanted to share that with you as inspiration for this project. Let me switch to you guys can see me again, right? Yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you the project page, and then show you also kind of what the expectations are for part 1, and also, where you can go from there. I'm not going to share. I don't need Photoshop, so we're just going to do, maybe you guys, come here. I'm just going to go into the Photoshop project page. Can everyone see Canvas? Yeah, okay. So welcome to your first Photoshop project for Digital Imaging 1. You can see here I have some digital examples, some whether they are recreations or photographs or scans of actual postcards. You really can't tell when you're working digitally, right? And when you're working with something that you're going to share online. There's so many different ways in order to emulate the look and feel of something vintage. Like here's deckled edgings again on these Paris postcards that may be real Paris postcards that someone took a picture of, or they may have been created online. You guys are going to use Photoshop to create postcards. You're going to utilize new Photoshop skills to create a vintage style greetings from postcard featuring a historic photo from the past. So your postcard location may be one of the following: the country or city you call home, the country or city where you were born, as different from where you call home, somewhere you wish you were right now. So it is a pretty broad requirement for the location, but you must be able to find a historical photo of the location, and your location may not be fictional. So those are kind of the parameters to work within for your postcard. This project will take you steps by step through the creative process, like I said, and it's really important to stick to the process. In the project pages, this is the first one that you've seen, there will be these tabs that you will need to navigate through that have instructions for each step of the project. The first tab, and this tab is going to be on both part 1 and part 2 and will not change, is the project description and then what's called the design brief. The design brief is giving you the very specifics of what you'll be creating. So for this project, you'll use some basic skills to first edit a vintage photo to remove blemishes like creases, cracks, dusts, and scratches, and then use that photo to create a greetings from postcard on Adobe Express. I'm going to show you that next. That comes in part 2 next week, but I want you to just see it because you'll do a bit of brainstorming and researching on Adobe Express this week. This project will give you a chance to flex your creative process, practice your photo editing skills. As you can see, the exercises from this week directly relate to what you'll be doing in this project, but also gives you some creative freedom, right? So you've got some freedom with what you're going to create. You'll be graded on the following criteria: use of the elements and principles of art and design, accurate size and resolution for the project, which is given for you in the design brief, adherence to the steps of the creative process. I do not want to see finished postcards this week. I want to see presentations of your brainstorm and research and your sketching and ideation. That presentation should be designed, right? It should be, if you refer back to the creating assignment submissions page, it tells you how to present your work in the best way. Intentional use of typography and successful use of Photoshop as a photo editing tool. Here's the design brief. Your postcard must adhere to the following criteria. It must be digital. It must be single-sided. It should be 6 by 4 inches, either portrait or landscape. This is the standard US size for a postcard. Your color mode when you get into setting up your file in Photoshop will be RGB, and the resolution at least 150 pixels per inch. Next week, when in part 3, when you're officially starting in Photoshop, I will be walking you through how to set up your file, but you're welcome to work ahead as always, and knowing where you're headed is really important. So in your brainstorm and research and your sketching and ideation this week, you know that you need to have a photo of a certain size and a certain resolution. Your postcard content is one historic photo at least, with the words greeting from and then your location. For instance, greetings from Napa, greetings from Chile, greetings from Paris, kind of up to you. The final distribution, once we get to the finalization phase, is a postcard that is created in Photoshop and on Adobe Express, and then shared through Adobe Express with at least 2 classmates, and then also uploaded to the final assignment page in Canvas. You need to procure the email address of 2 of your classmates. You guys are welcome to do that anytime. But just know that you're going to need that by the end of this project. Your photo choice, I've highlighted this so that you know the parameters that, or the requirements for the photo that you use in your postcard. It may be a childhood photo of yourself or a family member, a historical photo of your hometown or country, a historical photo of a famous location that you have a personal connection to. The reason for a personal connection, and that personal connection might just be, I've always wanted to go here, but you're going to need to speak to the reason why you chose the location that you chose. And if you have a personal connection to it or thoughts about it, it's going to make it easier to talk about. The photo must be at least 35 years old or look 35 years old roughly. It needs to be in need of photo editing, scannable, or already in a digital format so that you can open it in Photoshop, right? So you're welcome to go through your own family albums, which is, I'm going to show you in a minute, is what I did, and then scan your photos to make them digital so that you can work on them in Photoshop. Some more examples for you. These are some of these are pulled directly from Adobe Express. They have templates, which I'm going to show you guys in a minute. So for here, that again, that's the design brief, the project description, the examples. This tab is going to be the same for part 2. What's going to change is the phases of the creative process that you're working through. So each phase has its own set of instructions. And then the what's due is going to tell you specifically what you're turning in. So for brainstorm and research, you're going to ask yourself as you're brainstorming, where are you from? And consider this question from multiple angles. I just put, I'm from Sacramento, California. I'm half Japanese, half Italian. My parents are the first and second generation born in the United States. My family is from Hiroshima and Sicily. I am American and Californian. So right there, you can see many different locations, right, that are possible for me to use for my postcard. I grew up in East Sac. For my postcard, I will focus on where I grew up. So my postcard will say, greetings from East Sac. This is the goal of your brainstorm and research. And here's a list of questions to help you. As you're doing your research, you may find that how you answered the questions, you can't find a photo to support that, in which case you might have to change your angle a little bit. So the brainstorm and research is kind of a really fluid step of the process, and things change as you go. Here are the photos that I came up with as I was searching through and looking for vintage photos. photos of myself in East Sac, and photos of my grandparents in various kind of places around the world. So brainstorm and research is very much where you're going to get into the figuring out what's going to work moving forward, which is why it's important to have that design brief and know what the requirements of the project are. So you're going to make notes as you go. You're going to do screen captures as you go. You're going to find 4 to 5 potential images, get them digitized or download them if they're already digitized, and save them to a project folder so that you have them and that you have digital versions moving forward. You're collecting your assets, your ideas, and working through what's going to work in order to fulfill the requirements of the project. So any questions about brainstorm and research? I lost the chat again. Here we go.
Oh, I have one.
Yeah, Melissa.
So for the photos, just so it's clear, they don't have to be personal photos, but they
Nope.
can be. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't want to restrict you, especially knowing that some people don't have personal photos or access to personal photos or the desire to share personal photos. So I wanted to make sure that there were other options available in case that was the case. You're absolutely welcome to do so, but you're also welcome to, if you always wanted to go to Paris, find a vintage photo of Paris, which is where searching for stock imagery kind of comes in, and being able to go out and look for photos specifically of a location that is not somewhere that you've been, but somewhere that you want to go and have a personal connection to. So, you're able to search in that way. Does that make sense? Okay. So for sketching and ideation, you were gonna then, kind of have your ideas, and you're going to start sketching out what it might look like as a postcard. And these are just rough sketches. You don't have to be able to draw to do this, but you just are to start getting stuff down either on paper or with a digital notepad, and do some sketching and ideation. Part of your sketching and ideation is going to be exploring Adobe Express to see the postcard templates, because once you kind of see what's available in the templates, that's going to help you to know what photo might work best or how the wording might look best on the photos that you have. There's a lot of things that you're working with in combination, and you have to start sketching and having ideas about how that's going to work moving forward. So, this part of the process is really important, and it's a part of the process that people feel intimidated about sometimes because of the idea of sketching if you cannot draw. I can't draw. I still feel that this is a very important part of the process for me. I use Post-its all the time to kind of organize how I think things work together, and to be able to peel and stick and move things around within my sketchbook. You will find your best way to do it, but this is an important part of the process that I don't want you to skip over, and also where you need to document your work as you go, so you have something to include in that presentation that you're going to be submitting. What's due part 1 is going to tell you what to include in that presentation. You're going to include your brainstorm and research, your sketching and ideation. I want your name, your location choice, a few sentences about your choice, the process you followed, describe your brainstorm and research, right? Your photo selections. Even if you have determined by sketching and ideation that maybe some of the photos from brainstorm and research won't work, that's part of the story that you're telling as you're presenting your creative process. Include them. And then this kind of just goes over a little bit more and reiterates what's on that creating assignment submission page. Please revisit this page if you need a reminder or just kind of again, just to get a visual of what the expectation is for the presentations in this class. And remember that there are examples and that you can link out and look at student presentations from previous classes and what that looks like. But that's what you're expected to turn in. What's next just tells you what's going to be happening next week. And then the rubric is how you will be graded. And this breaks down the distribution of points and kind of how you'll earn that full 50 points for this part of the project. That said, and before I take more questions, I want to pop out to Adobe Express, which is right here. I started a postcard project. So this is Adobe Express. Let me just open the home page of it on another page. You sign into Adobe Express with your Adobe ID, and that gives you access to the templates, to saving your work, and just kind of having a library of things at your fingertips. What you're going to be doing specifically for this project is going to the templates tab, which is here on the left, and searching through the templates for greetings from Postcard. And you're going to see a whole bunch of postcard ideas. A lot of these are the backside of the postcard, as you saw on my printed examples. But what you want to choose for your template is a picture or a front side of the postcard, right? So that you can create that greetings from side. This is part of not only your brainstorm and research, but your sketching and ideation. By this point, you kind of have an idea of the photo that you want to use, you know, the location or the individual that you're going to feature. And so that will help you as you're going through the different templates to choose which template you're going to use. So there are a ton of them, and let me just pick one. You can just favorite them as you're kind of working through this part of the creative process, because you won't actually be building it out until next week or the following week, but you can favorite the ones that you think you might want to use. You can also right click on them and save the image. And that's what you want to do in order to document it and to be able to include it in your presentation, is then to save the image of the template so you can, in your presentation of your brainstorm and research and sketching and ideation, say, here are some of the templates that I think that I might want to use, you know, once I get into my work in progress. Next week, when we get into the work in progress, I'll show you guys how to actually utilize the template. There's a few specific things that you have to do in order to make sure it's the right size. And then to go ahead and like swap out the images that come in the template with your own images. But we'll get into that next week. Adobe Express is really fun, and you can create and then save and distribute. You're going to use the share function in order to send to a classmate and to myself. So that's your first project. Does anyone have questions? I don't want to stop my share until I'm sure there's nothing else that I need to kind of demonstrate or share with you. But if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to put it into the chat, now would be the time for me to clarify if there needs to be any clarification of this project for you and of the first two phases of the creative process that you'll be working through this week. Any questions?
Nikki, could we use an illustration, a vintage illustration, as opposed to a vintage photo?
If you, well, I would prefer that you use a vintage photo, and I will tell you why. And let me just kind of share Photoshop with you. The reason for this is so that you can practice the skills that you're practicing this week with repairing damaged photos. So if I go into, let me just find my photos that I found as I was creating this project, and I'll show you that even let me see here. and this is a little bit jumping ahead to next week, but I think it's important because, let me see this one. Oh gosh. Okay, this is me, first day of school, in East Sacramento, and you can see this photo has these weird spots on the top of it. I want you to utilize the exercises that you're learning this week in order to improve your photo, Angelica. So that is why I prefer a photo over an illustration, because an illustration would be created in a different way and wouldn't have the same kind of damage that old photographs are showing. Does that make sense? Okay. And even like if you're, oh, I should have shared my whole screen instead of just Photoshop. Even if you are searching on nope, I want my whole desktop. Even if you're searching on Unsplash, right, for vintage photo, it would be, you would have to try. I mean, a lot of these are perfect, right? And you won't have the opportunity to necessarily fix them. But one thing that you would have the opportunity to do is to get rid of distractions or get rid of things in the photograph that don't work well for for a postcard, even if that's getting rid of something in order to create space for the greetings from text, right? So definitely let's work within photographs. Gordon had the question about the age of the photo, and if you don't have a photo that is 35 years or older, I think that's fine, and that's definitely a like a realistic problem that you might face as you're creating this project. But the idea is that you're creating a vintage photo postcard. So if the case is that you in your personal photo collection don't have a photo that's that old, that means you need to figure out a way in which you can. So maybe you choose, instead of doing your own personal history, you do the history of your hometown, in which case there will be historical photos that you can source online and go out and bring and search and bring in your brainstorm and research. So even if you personally do not have a photo that's 35 years old, you can find a photo that is that old of a location, whether it's your home, your hometown, where you were born, the country that you're from, or somewhere that you want to go. You will definitely be able to find a vintage photograph. Any other questions?
I was curious, you said on for the submitting your work section, it says your photo selections and your final photos. Our final photo can be one of the ones that we put up there as our selections, right?
Right, exactly. So in the brainstorm and research, you're going to find 4 or 5 images that might potentially work. You're going to go and look at Adobe Express and pick a few templates that you think might work. You're going to narrow that down by the time you get to work in progress and finalization to just one of each. But in the beginning, I want to see what sort of ideas that you've come up with before you narrow it down to that one. And that's something that is going to help your creative process. It's going to help your ideas. It's going to give you options so that when you get to finalizing or you get into whatever the work is and you're putting text on an image or putting an image into a template, that, you know, the photo you thought might have been the one that you were moving forward with might not end up working, and you have backups and you have other ideas, and you don't have to go back 100% to the drawing board. You can actually have some choices. So yeah. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions about the project?
Oh, I was also curious, do you have like an exact amount of slides that you're like preferred for us to like create, or like does every slide have to have a picture on it? Because I know that a lot of them are kind of written questions that are hard to find pictures for. So do you expect every slide to have a picture on it?
I don't expect every slide to have a picture on it. I also don't expect every question to be answered. The questions that are there are to help you with your brainstorm and research. And as you brainstorm and research, you might find that question doesn't apply to the direction that I want to go. And so you don't necessarily have to answer every single question. What I do expect from your presentation is that when you're presenting the information that you're presenting, that you're making intentional design choices, so that you use a heading and that your text or your notes that you've taken are presented in a way that tell a story and kind of walk me through your creative process. So really that could take as many slides as you need. That's completely up to you. Kiara, thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll take general questions about the classwork or anything that you have questions about, the homework, work from last week, the exercises. Angelica, you or Carla, please.
Hi. When I did the assignment from last class,
Mhm.
when I uploaded my screenshot,
Mhm.
it showed that I had uploaded it. I got the confetti and everything. And then my grade said that it wasn't there. So
Okay.
I tried again on Monday when I got home from work, and I got the same result. It showed I was uploading it, and it showed the confetti and everything again, but I don't see, like I could see when we did our discussion, Introduce Yourself, and I uploaded my photo there through the Canvas app. It shows that this is stuff I've uploaded in the past, and my screenshot still doesn't show. So I'm just wondering what I'm missing, because as far as I could tell, it was uploading.
So what I see from you is a screenshot of your whole assignment instead of a screen capture of just your layers panel, and then a separate upload of your finalized image.
Got it.
Yeah. So you should have, so in the case where you're screen capturing your layers panel, you're uploading one file that's the layers panel.
Okay.
But then you have to go through the steps to finalize your image to create that JPEG.
Okay, because and you know what, you had a time this evening when you were going through the layers panel, and you said, "Oh, let me show you," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's what happened, is that I didn't do one of just the layers panel."
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's because you did just like one big one.
Okay, okay, got it.
Because it's important that you know how to finalize a file, because you're not going to be turning, like if you're working with a client or if you're getting prints of a photo that you've edited for weddings, you're not going to be sending off a screen capture of your whole workspace. You're going to be sending off a very specific kind of final file. So
got it. Okay, great. As long as I'm uploading, then I just need to make sure I'm uploading exactly what it is, the way you broke it down. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Elika, did you have another question? Nope. Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to stick around. I'm going to stop the recording and then stick around for any other final questions. I'm really excited about the projects that I have for this semester for this class. We're going to be doing some fun stuff. Almost every single project is a new project that I created specifically for this class. So if you see something in the instructions that looks like a typo or doesn't make sense, please reach out to me right away so I can fix it, because I've been creating a ton of new content in a short amount of time, and I want to make sure that it's right and that I'm presenting it to you correctly. So please let me know if you see something strange. Thank you guys, and have a great week 3.